All right. Love and abundance, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in to the What's Your Story show. This is your host, Dr. Varun Gandhi. So at the very beginning, usually what I start out doing is as people are coming in, I am going to do the water ritual. This is where all of us, everyone that's watching right now and any future listeners, we will drink water together. So I do this because I think it's extremely important. And I also read this book called Your Body's Many Cries for Water. And look at the name of the author right here. For the last name has Batman in it. So it's got to be something. All right. So this book, just a little bit of background about it. This guy is a Persian doctor who got thrown in jail during the revolution in the late 80s. And while he was in prison, he saw a whole bunch of, let's say, prisoners that were like energyless, lying on the floor, just almost dead looking like. And he was just paying attention to them, observing them. And he realized that, he just thought like, hey, let me just give him some water. And after drinking like 5, 7, 10 sips of water in about 3 hours, they were completely different. They had a whole lot more energy. They were able to sit up. They were able to stand and walk around. And what he found is they had ulcers, and essentially by drinking water and staying hydrated, they were able to remove all of their ulceritis and all of those related diseases. So then that's how his curiosity in water began. And then he did all of the research to write this book. And so in the 90s, like 93, I think is when he published this book. So this is like a preventative and self-education manual. I recommend people picking this up and reading more about it. And this is the reason, once I read this book, one of his key ideas is this. He says, look, 75% of our body is water. 80% of our brain is water. Yet we focus more on eating food, which is only that 25-30% of our body, that solid portion. I mean, yeah, we have to focus on foods that have a lot of water content in them, like fruits and vegetables, because that is 80-90% water, right? That's why health experts will tell you to focus on fruits and vegetables. But we focus more on the carbs, on all of the fatty foods that don't contain a lot of water. And so we're constantly dehydrated and we don't drink enough water to make up for it. If you really think about it, your whole intake, 70 to 75% of your intake, whether that may be liquids or solids, has to be liquids or water. But think about it for your life. Do you do that? Maybe not. Again, every body is different. So that someone says drink X amount of water, it may not work for everyone. Some bodies may require more water because they have a lot of innate heat inside of them, like my body. I generate a lot of heat, so I have to drink more water to keep my body cool, like a car. So everyone that's watching right now, let's take a sip of water together. Let's drink and take as big a sip as you want. Cheers. Pick this book up. I'll bring it up more and more as we throughout the lives that I'm doing. But that's the water ritual, and that's why I do it. So welcome to What's Your Story? This show, we capture stories of the Indian community. We want to have conversations with people who are doing something different in their life, who are not stuck in the same career, the same pathways in life that at one point I was stuck in. And now I have a lot more freedom, and I feel like this is what I'm really doing to bring up humanity. So on this show, we talk about issues, challenges, stereotypes, limitations. We talk about ways that we can support each other, bring each other up. We teach you concepts and new ideas so that when you leave this interview, you have something implanted inside of you. And all of this happens through the power of storytelling. So we bring on guests, they share their stories. And just like today's guest, we have a fascinating topic for today. It's called long distance running, ... for the kids. By the way, so I said for the kids, that is our buzzword for the day. And so every time I say that, I'm going to play this sound for the kids. So right before we get to our guests for today, I want to, again, invite everyone. Please like this video, share this video, If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe to the channel so that when I go live again, you'll get a notification. Also, my personal story with running has been interesting. About 10 years ago, I went through this phase of, hey, I'm going to go run some marathons and half marathons. So I started training for one. It was a Thanksgiving marathon in Atlanta, half marathon in Atlanta. And that was my first ever one. I trained for it really diligently, 3 months ahead of schedule, and made sure I went every weekend and did my runs. Finally, I got to the day and had a goal in mind. I wanted to do it under 2 hours, my first marathon, and I had no idea, but I got there within 50 seconds. Like I had 50 seconds to spare, and I made it to the finish line. So just under 2 hours, and so that was my first experience. And then I did multiple runs after that, 2 more runs after that. One was another one in Atlanta. And then I got into this phase of, you know what, I'm going to travel to different cities. So I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to go run in that city. So I started with Chicago. That was the first one I did, a half marathon. And that was it. I stopped after that. I haven't run a marathon or 5K since then. So it's been an interesting story for like 10 years ago. But now you could say I'm retired from running professionally. And I run for sport and other reasons, but not like as a race. But today's guest is Aum Gandhi. And
Hey,
hey, welcome, Aum.
love abundance. Good to have you on. Good to be on.
Love abundance, Aum. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so
Uh,
much. Huge honor, man.
I appreciate you. I mean, I've known you for about a year or so now, and you've seen a lot of change in this year, maybe even longer than that, 2 years now. Seen a lot of change in this during this time. So I want to. That's why I thought that was very interesting that you picked up running because we're not known to be runners. We don't do it a lot. I mean, maybe yeah, for health reasons we push ourselves and do it, but for you it's like become natural. But before that, you had a completely different mindset, completely different story. So I want to dive deeper into that. Like, what was your story before this phase of running, and how were you like, and then what was it during the transition?
Well, I was definitely not who I am today. Like when I was growing up as a kid, I was the last kid on the track. I was unathletic. I struggled with food addiction and obesity throughout my childhood. When I was 18, I got a pre-diabetes diagnosis that sort of made me turn my life around. It was kind of like the wake-up call for me, but running didn't really start until maybe actually just about 4 years ago now. Running
Mm.
didn't start till about 4 years ago, and I picked it up for mental health reasons more than physical reasons. Just a lot going on in my life, a lot of struggles. And I thought to myself, okay, let's see what I can do. And I went out and I tried to run about a mile, ended up doing a quarter of a mile, and I got really sick and went home. And then I asked myself, well, what would happen if could I run 30 minutes at a time? And then the 5K was my Everest. And you were talking about your half marathon earlier. That was my Everest at the time. And it was just one thing after another. And here I am now.
So you said mental health, right? It helped you more so for your mental health than your physical health. What in what ways did it transform you mentally, and like what was your state before that, and then during this process, how did running help you through it?
So I've struggled with depression and anxiety throughout my life. The food addiction was, like most addictions, kind of a symptom of a larger problem. And I struggled with depression from a very, very early age. Uh, at first, it was rebellion, and then it sort of, in my teenage years, became more being enclosed and quiet. And I just struggle with that and a lot of anxiety and just never really found my place or my purpose at the time. And running was just something that was sort of in and out of my life, like with you. But oftentimes I would do it and I would give up. Like I said, I was last kid on the track doing like 15, 16-minute miles, and just thought to myself, like, I don't really have any other outlet. So I'm just gonna go out and try this just for the sake of like mental health and not for like losing weight or anything this time. And even though I've struggled with weight fluctuations and food addiction throughout my life, I went towards this 4 years ago strictly from a mental health perspective first. And it's helped me tremendously as far as bringing structure back into my life.
Mm. So I guess you mentioned something that purpose. It kind of gave you some sort of purpose, running, and I've read this book called by Viktor Frankl, and in that he talks about. So he's this guy who was a psychologist, and he was in the World War encampment in Germany, right? And he was at
Mhm.
Auschwitz. So he went through that and came out of it one of the very very few people who went through the camp and then came out of it successfully, or alive, not successfully but alive. And he said that the main thing that helped him was having a purpose while he was there. He was making sure that everyone around him was healthy, in a mentally healthy but also physically healthy, and making sure like he was always taking care of people. So he had that sort of like direction, like, hey. And then he also had this thing like, when I get out, I don't know if my family is going to be alive, but I want to see my wife and my kids after I get out of here. So he had like that mentality, that purpose, and that's what got him out there. So what was that purpose for you like when you found it? So you said you were lost, and then at some point you went through this thing of searching for the purpose and finding it. What was that journey like? Because a lot of people may be lost in their lives and they're looking for this very thing, and I was in that boat as well at some point. So what was that like for you, going through it, lost, confused, and then coming out of it, or understanding what that purpose is?
Oh, it was very difficult. And I know that the purpose is always something that can definitely evolve over time. Um, Oftentimes we think we know who we are, and that'll always evolve and change over time. And I know that this is definitely the iteration of the person I am now. And this is the closest I've ever been to being my true self. um, Running was sort of like a conduit for finding that true purpose. And that true purpose for me was being altruistic and trying to make the world a better place. And that's not being the person who changes the world, as you would know, but being the person who changes the person that changes the world. And running was definitely the conduit for that. And before that, I just didn't have that structure, and I was lost and I didn't know how to go about it. And running helped me find that and gave me sort of that strength and that power to stand up and be that leader and do my best to make this world a better place, do my part.
Yeah, that's interesting because the way we met was altruistic beginnings, right? Like we met at this grocery drive that we put together,
Yeah, yeah.
for the community, and all of us had come together and done this. Your mom and your parents and all of us, and that's how we met initially. And yeah, I mean it's crazy how things happen. You meeting the right people, and here you are sharing your story, and I'm sure you're going to go and talk to a whole bunch of other people and share your story in very many different other platforms. So yeah, it's I'm so glad that you've found at least the direction, the purpose for your life for right now, the altruistic way of living. Um, and running is one thing. I started running too, and I ran 13 miles, and I thought that was a lot. Like 13 miles is huge. How can I get to a marathon? But you have run 100 miles, and I think in October you're running 240 or 260. Is that right?
240, yeah, at
240.
In Moab, Utah.
Oh wow! So that's terrain too, so ups and downs, and right, like because that's high country. So what made you want to run 100 miles so many times?
For me, it was sort of like the next step after doing the half marathon, and I was going for the marathon, and that got canceled due to COVID. Uh, 3, 4 years ago, I watched a documentary called REI's How to Run a 100, and
Mm,
I was so mystified by it. I watched it, and at the time, I thought, man, these guys are like superhumans. I was idolizing them. They're like gods that walk this earth, you know? And over time, I know I was during the pandemic, I started getting more into running, We all struggle with mental health and kind of rediscovering who we are because the world stopped at the time. And um, just kind of, it just kind of helped me rediscover my purpose or like dive deeper into it in a sense. And the 100 miler is just like I said, it's like another conduit.
Mhm.
And I thought to myself, like, I want to do bigger things in this life, and I want to find something that'll empower me to serve that purpose. And I committed to my first 100 miler before I had even done my first marathon. Before I had only run 16 miles at the time in July of 2020, and that race was April 2021. It was the scariest thing I ever done in my entire life. I thought I was signing a death sentence.
How
uh,
was that first race? How was your first 100 miler?
oh my goodness. It was that race absolutely felt like my last dance. Like I was just almost everything went wrong. It was Murphy's Law. Little tech joke, my bib number was 404, error 404.
That's my
I
phone number.
had
Area
I
code.
had I had like ankle injury and I struggle with like GI issues at the time, which is, talking about that later, maybe like why I went plant-based in the future. But um, I just that race broke me down several times, and I ended up finishing that race with only a couple minutes to spare, and it took every single thing that I had to finish that race.
Talk me through the logistics. Talk me through the logistics of running a 100 miler. How does it look building up to the race? What is it like during the race? And then we'll talk more about the recovery after.
So training for a 100 miler, especially your first one, there's definitely a lot of base building. Especially, well, first off, I would say that my path was anything but conventional. I would not recommend anybody to go straight from 16 miles to a 100 miler. I did do like some 50K races, 31 miles in translation. That's like the baby ultra marathon. I did those leading up to this race. I kind of put them in my training cycle. I did base building where I did 50, 60-mile weeks, and I peaked at 75 to 85 miles every week. I started that in July, and sort of peaked my last time like 3 weeks before the race, started a taper, and it's just a lot of time, man. Like it's a lot of time dedication, just waking up early on Saturdays and doing 20 miles and then going out on Sunday and doing another 10, 15 miles out in the trails. Um, Sacrifice is definitely the word for it. But I knew that was what I wanted to do. Like for sure, you don't sign up for a 100 miler, you commit to one.
Yeah. Oh wow, I love that line. Um, so you said you do like 85 miles for the whole week, right?
Mhm.
So you did 20 on the Saturday, 10, 15. So that's 30, 35 miles on the weekend. And so you do about 50 miles during the week. So is that like 5 days, 10 miles a day?
Yeah. Sometimes it's like a smaller, like there's like speed-based workouts. There's a midweek run that's maybe like 10, 15 miles. And other days it'll be like double runs, like 7 in the morning, 5 in the evening. It
Oh,
definitely varies per the type of race I'm doing. Sometimes it's a flat race, sometimes it's a mountain race. So I have to get out there and do a lot of steep climbing, back in like Santa Monica Mountains or in Crystal Cove or Mount Wilson. So it definitely varies, but that's generally the mileage that I do.
wow. Okay. Um, and then, so how does it look like during the race time when you're running those 100 miles in it? Uh, what is, I mean, I don't know if I'm ever going to do one, maybe in the future.
Maybe,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, what is it like during those? How long does it take? How long did your first one take?
My first one took the full 36 hours. It was a cutoff of 36. For most mid to back of the pack people, it'll take anywhere from like 25 to like 30, 32 hours. And I was actually the last person to finish in that race, so I was back of the pack in that one. It'll take anywhere from 34 to 36 hours, depending on the terrain, the gain. So you're out there what feels like almost a lifetime.
Wow. Um, okay, so you're running basically, is it nonstop for 36 hours? Do you take a break or how does that work?
It is so the time is nonstop. Like the 36 hours is nonstop.
Like you
And
actually running is that nonstop or how often do you take a break or how does that schedule work?
you're definitely like moving, depending on your speed or whatever, you're definitely moving constantly. Like my foot time was for sure at least like 32 out of the 30 to 32 hours out there. And then there was the breaks, in between where I'm at an aid station and I need to resupply my food, my water. Those will come every 5 to 7 miles in a typical 100 miler. At the Moab race, it'll be every 20 miles. So it's a
Ooh.
different kind of challenge. But it's the timer moves nonstop. So the breaks are kind of at your own discretion. And um, most of it is centered around like problem management because the longer you're on your feet, the more things are going to go wrong. So it's
Mm.
like foot care issues, it's food, it's like your calories, trying to get at least 200 an hour, drinking water, electrolytes, and just solving problems as they come. Is like your ankle tweaked and you need to size up? Do you have like a hot spot in your foot and you need to take care of?
Mm.
So it's almost like a microcosm of life, solving problems as they come.
And then do you take like a long break in the middle to sleep at all or is it
No,
small time?
no, not for 100 miler. I did have to take sometimes I'll get really tired and I'll start seeing splits and I have hallucinated before.
Oh, wow.
um, but you definitely, this last one I did take like a 5 minute nap and a 1 minute nap. And after both of them, I think I hit the right part of the REM cycle. I'm not sure the science behind it, but I felt much better afterwards.
Wow, just so 5 minutes and 1 minute nap.
Yeah, and in the dirt, like those are some of the best naps I've ever had and really makes you think like it had like the best nap you've ever had on the bed versus I mean like on a trail versus like sometimes you have a bad sleep on a bed. Really makes you think.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And then what do you usually carry in your with you during the 100 miles?
So I'll carry like my calories. It'll be like I'll carry gels for the first 30 miles. I have two flasks for water. Depending on the terrain, I carry trekking poles with me. I also carry like a small med kit, which has like foot care stuff and like anti-chafe cream and just foot cream. And um, I'll also carry like an emergency blanket in case you have to stop and it gets cold. And it's just, I think, an essential that you should have. And when it gets to the night section, or depending on the time of the race, I'll always carry like a light for sure.
Mm, okay. And then can you have someone meet you at one of those stops to give you some supplies for the next part of the
Yeah.
race?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They have so it's almost like a NASCAR thing where they have like crews
Mm,
for their runners.
okay.
So at this last, I've done my first 100 miler, I did solo. The second, third, and fourth ones, I did have a crew with me that was kind of helping me like refill my water and like helping me with like telling them I need food, I need to like change out to these shoes. um, and God bless them, for putting up with me if I was ever cranky or anything like that. But uh, it takes an amazing human being to be on a crew.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, yeah, they're definitely very valuable for you, and making sure that you can recover. I mean, run the whole race, and make sure you get to the finish line. What? So after the race is done, now what does your recovery look like? How long are you sore for? What? Give us all the details.
So after I did my first one, uh, I was out of commission for at least a couple weeks because of the ankle. I actually went to urgent care the after I finished the race. Uh, my
Wow.
parents were worried sick about me. It took me to urgent care. All my levels were elevated, and it was bad. Like I said, going from 16 to 100 isn't typically ideal. Um, after these last few ones, like after this one, for example, you sort of nail down like your recovery.
Mm,
Being plant-based for me is a big reason why I feel like I'm bouncing back so fast. It's kept my inflammation down. It's helped me get better sleep and recover faster. And the first day I'll be like really sore, and I never like to. I've had people tell me like you need to put your feet up and rest. I've always been a believer in active recovery. I feel
mm,
like our bodies are at their best when and functioning properly. I think it goes back to like the 10,000 steps thing. Our bodies function so much better when we get some movement in,
mhm.
and also when we get some sunlight and some vitamin D for sure.
Yeah, I feel like when usually when I play sports or something, when I get those cramps and soreness, is when I'm sitting for a long period of time and just sitting there. It's building up all of that chemicals that give me the
Yeah,
soreness in the body. But then when I start moving around and just get my body a little loose, and those the soreness has almost gone away. Like it's kind of in the background, and now so I feel like that active recovery idea is kind of it works for me as well. And then, so what is it like? Is that the whole week after that you're out of commission, or when do you do your next run after that?
so I do a lot of cross training to start out with. I spend a lot of time on the stationary bike because it's low impact and helps me flush out, like you said, like the chemicals, the lactic acid.
Like, I guess.
And I just do a lot of like yoga and stretching. And
Mm,
I do my first run in the first week, kind of by intuition when I feel like I've gotten to the point where I can sort of feel when my body is ready for it.
yeah.
If there was barring like if there was no like crazy injury or anything like that, which there wasn't in this race, thankfully, I was able to actually do my first run today, which is Thursday. So 3, 4 days after the race. So that's ideal.
So you just had a run on, was it Sunday or Saturday?
Yeah, I finished on Saturday at 3 p.m. and I just did a nice 2 mile jog. So
Oh,
I'm feeling pretty good.
very
And
good.
I've also just been eating like it's my job. That's important. It's just you burn so many calories, your body needs so many to recover. You just have to eat like it's your job. A balance between the food that you want and treating yourself to, and a balance between like high nutrition food, like just
Mm,
greens and veggies and just higher nutrition per calorie.
yeah. What is your food intake like? You mentioned a couple of times plant-based. I'm plant-based as well, so that's awesome. You know what? I'm going to give an applause for both of ourselves for this one. Yeah. What was that journey like for you? Going how long ago did you go plant based, and what was that like for you?
So as I was mentioning earlier, I in the 100 mile race, I struggled with my normal foods, some of them which involve cheese, like cheese quesadillas.
Mm,
And I just struggled with GI issues throughout the whole race, and I felt like I was redlining on calories and in a deficit longer than I needed to be. And that happened to me on my next race 6 weeks after, which was a 24-hour race, and I struggled with the same issues and inflammation. And I'd been a vegetarian my whole life. Um, and just decided like, I don't really like cheese. I don't really drink milk. I'm already essentially plant-based like 4 or 5 days of the week. So I might as well just see what happens if I go all the way and just become a plant-based diet. And I never went back because the changes were amazing. The recovery time was so improved. And surprisingly, I felt like I was even retaining muscle mass on my body better after I became plant based.
so do you have to have a certain amount of protein intake? Because that's the biggest question people have. Like, how do you get your protein if you're plant based? What is like what kind of protein do you get? Where do you get it from?
I get it from like there's like lentils, there's like peanuts, which is peanut butter is key for me because that's where a lot of the amino acids come from.
Mm,
And then there's like I have to supplement it with like Orgain, it's like a vegan protein powder. Um, but there's definitely a lot of places you can get it from. That's for sure.
yeah, I know a lot of our vegetables also have protein in it. Like spinach has
Mhm.
good amount of protein. Uh,
Yeah.
and yeah, so there are certain vegetables that have protein in them as well. Wow, that's yeah, man. I mean, plant-based athlete. That's so amazing. Before we get to the weight loss questions, because I know you went through a weight loss journey as well through this time period. I want to play the random question game.
All right.
So I have a list of 100 questions. So I'm going to ask you to pick a number from 1 to 100, and I'll go to the list and ask you the question. So what's your
Okay.
number?
Well, my bib number was 315, so I'm gonna go number 9.
Number 9. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, where would you relocate if you were forced to leave the country?
If I was forced to leave the country, I would probably say I haven't been there myself, but hopefully it's in the cards. I'd probably say Thailand.
Why
Um,
there?
oh, just the fact that it's a Buddhist country and they have so many plant-based people there, and I love Thai food, and they have all kinds of types of environments there. Like you can go to the beach, you can go out to the trails and the mountains. The people, from what I hear, are very friendly. It's
Hmm.
also only about, if I'm correct, maybe 3-4 hours away from India. So
Yeah, yeah,
so
it's very close
it's
by.
like ideal for me. And I've always wanted to see like the rest of Southeast Asia. So Thailand for sure.
There is a lot of beauty out there, and yeah, a lot of I guess Hindu temples out there as well. So you could go on that as well. All right, cool. Yeah, that's a good answer. I like that. All right, so let's talk about your weight loss journey. What was that like? When did it start? Where were you? And then how did you lose the weight? How much did you lose? How did you lose the weight? And yeah.
So weight loss is, I always knew like I think maybe 12, 13, middle school, after being sort of bullied for it, was sort of the first time I really acknowledged that being fat wasn't okay. And I started getting really insecure about it. And it started kind of tying back into the depression that I had from an early age. And that was, I was young and I tried so many different things. It's when you start getting access to the internet and everything. So I thought maybe the salad diet, maybe like fruit diet, like water only diet. Um, and nothing seemed to work. And my food addiction got worse. My depression got worse. It was like an endless loop. Everything sort of peaked when I was 16 or 17. And I was just in this really dark place. And then lost a little weight and sort of gained it back even more. When I was 18, I was at my peak, about 240 pounds, and that's when I got like the pre-diabetes diagnosis. And that was like a wake-up call for me, because I come from a family that genetically has like a diabetic history.
Mm.
And I know that like if I had gone a few weeks more doing that, then I would have gone down that path, and that was not what I wanted for myself. Unfortunately, I mean, I did lose weight. It happened over 2.5 years, but I realized after years of reflection that at the time, I was unhealthily skinny. So I've been on that end of the spectrum too. I got to like 165 and I had like no muscle, and I was just like starving myself. And I had this mindset of like, I need to go for play basketball, or I need to go exercise because I ate this much, instead of like, I need to go do this because it's part of my lifestyle, it's for my mental health. Um, I was doing it because it was like a math game to me, like calories.
Mm.
Um, and then sort of in my adult life, I gained that weight back because it was unsustainable. I struggle with mental health issues going into my adult years as well. It's just something that ebb and flows. And I got back up to 220 pounds. And that was about 4 years ago when I realized that enough is enough. But this time the mindset changed. It was more for mental health first.
Mm.
And the weight loss sort of just followed this time, because I was making choices for my mind first and for my lifestyle first, and going about it the sustainable way, instead of like I just need to lose X amount of pounds because I need to look like a certain way, like a Hrithik Roshan or something like that, you know?
So before it was more like you were forcing yourself, and there was a lot of friction, a lot of
Yeah.
resistance inside that it wasn't sustainable. You couldn't keep up with it. Like you would go hard for a certain period of time, and then lose the momentum, and then kind of fall off, and then gain the weight, and then go through that up and down of life. But
Yeah.
once you were able to kind of go to the source of what caused this unhealthy lifestyle, now you're able to finally make the switch mentally and be like, no, it's my habits, and it's a every kind of moment decision that you're making to walk in the direction of health. So that's not only eating healthy foods and making sure that you're not intaking low calorie or calories that are of low quality. And like French fries, you could get 200 calories from French fries or 200 calories from broccoli, and there's like two different calories are the same, but very different qualities of it. So yeah, that's such a great topic. We just got a comment from another Gandhi.
That's my dad.
Here we go. Hey, Dad, what's going on? And yeah, yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm yeah, so excited that you were able to go through this, and then eventually now you're at like 160. Is that right? 170?
I'm at about healthy 165 now, but it's different this
165.
time, like
Yeah.
muscle mass is there and just it's more balanced out this time instead of like being like the twig and unhealthily skinny.
Right, right. Yeah, and this time there's a lot more running behind it, so there's a lot of like muscles in your body, and different ways. So yeah, that's awesome. And so if someone were to try to start losing weight and moving in that direction, what advice would you give them? Like what small steps can they start taking to start losing weight?
I'd say the biggest step from my experience is put away the words, I'm going to start on Monday. I'm going to start tomorrow. Start today. Just show up, even if it's 5 minutes at a time, because it's not about intensity. I learned that the hard way. And you can go out and do a 4-hour workout and put yourself out of commission for like, weeks, months at a time. You can make yourself give up.
Yeah.
By starting too strong. Just start with 5 minutes and just show up. And I promise you, you might not see results for the first year, maybe even just like even for the first couple months, depending on what you're doing, first year, second year, depending on the level you're doing it at. But eventually, like a plant, it'll bloom and you'll turn that corner and you'll start to see the results. But my my other advice is before you look for the physical results, look for the mental ones,
Mm.
because you're not just doing this to lose weight. You're doing this to be sustainable, to do this for life.
Yeah, that's like the whole lifestyle, the mindset switch. So what was that like if someone is looking to make that mindset switch, what like where should they start? How do they go about doing that? What was it like for you?
Um, I would say a good place to start is finding something that you enjoy doing. Um, if it's something that kind of like you look forward to, look at it, maybe if it's like a 5-minute walk in the park or something, look at it as an activity that you can do to kind of de-stress from the day. Look at it as a activity that you can do for enjoyment. Maybe it's like playing frisbee, or maybe it's like going out to the beach and going for a nice little swim. Maybe it's playing basketball. Find something that you enjoy and start from there and build your foundation from there. Maybe it's like going to that salsa class you've always wanted to do and dancing, or going, all my Indian folks know, going out in October and doing garba.
Make it every day, right? Do garba every week.
Yeah, yeah,
Cardio.
dance like nobody's watching. But find something that you enjoy first, and the mental health results will follow. And then next thing you know, you'll be hooked.
Yeah, I love that advice. And Ramsey said the same thing. Start with something you enjoy. I love that advice because that helped me as well. It's like whatever the thing that makes you feel joy, like playing basketball. It doesn't have to be a run. It could be a swim. It could be any kind of physical movement activity that allows you to release some of your energy that's kind of pent up inside of you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's great.
and it doesn't have to be like, don't compare your journey to someone else's journey. You don't feel like you have to watch this show and go do 100 miles or 240 miles, you know? Everybody has their Everest and everyone has their relative, you know? Find the thing that challenges you and the results will follow.
Yeah, yeah, and then have that kind of purpose or something that you're going behind, right? Because oh yeah, Kundan has a great comment here. I love swing dance and also dancing with the spiral stick.
Spiral stick. I love it. I love it, Kundan.
Um, yeah, that's great advice. So while you were going through your journey, were you supported? Were you encouraged? With your family, friends, people around you. How was that like for you?
Honestly, in my first 18 years, I either wasn't supported or I didn't feel like I was supported. I think it was a combination of both. And it's something that I think a lot of people at that age go through. Um, I also didn't have a flying resume for like being an athlete or somebody who do things like this. So it's not very easy to take somebody at face value, even if you're their parents or their family when they say like, I'm going to go out and do this 5K, you know, because the resume wasn't glowing. So um, even when I was 24, even 3, 4 years ago, like I was understandably questioned. Because I was working like this job, working long hours. So I did a lot of runs like at night. And I did a lot of grinding either early in the morning or late at night. And I was often asked, like, why are you doing this? You know? And that was like a lot of my friends, like, too, like, why are you doing this? My friends at the time. Um, that being said, I know that if the resume was more glowing, even despite it not being glowing, like my parents were definitely, at least they would say the right things, you know, like try to support it, you know. And I
Yeah.
had two of my best friends, Kenny and Heidi. I've known them for the longest time. They're
Uh-oh.
given like that unconditional support.
Hey, you're back now.
Oh yeah, I'm back. Where did it stop?
I mean, you mentioned your friends Heidi and Frank. All right, so he's gonna be back in a second. I think he is slow internet. So I heard something where there are solar flares coming onto Earth today in the last, like this week and the next few days as well.
Oh,
And
I'm back.
because of that, hey, there you are. Okay.
I'm back.
Now I was just saying that there's news that solar flares are coming onto Earth. Like sun is releasing
Oh,
some
wow.
flares, so that's coming on this week and the next few days, like today and the next few days. So that's why I feel like it's going to disrupt certain technology and things like that. So these
Oh,
problems are
wow.
going to happen, but that's okay. So yeah, you were mentioning your friends.
Yeah, they were like the two friends that have been like constants throughout since like I've known them since like I was 18.
Okay.
And they've been constants throughout this journey of just like unconditional support, and I definitely owe a lot to them. And then just people you meet along the way as you evolve, you know, people come and go, and the support has definitely grown over the years, but I've definitely kept the circle small and intimate, and the people who understand me really understand me.
Yeah, I'm gonna give an applause. These are for all your friends and everyone that's been that support structure for you, the backbone for you. So you're doing this for a reason. You're raising money for the family, Redstone Family. So can you talk about that? What are they about? What do they do? And why do why do you see a purpose in raising funds for them?
So I've been So I've been working with Redstone Family, volunteering with them since college. Built like a rainwater system for them, and did some activities with their kids. But to back up, Redstone is an organization that was founded in 1974 in LA. They're a family center that adopts kids and their families to prevent child abuse, domestic violence, and generational trauma in lower income, mostly in lower income brackets. They're centered in Hawthorne in like in the LA area, and they are just I've seen their boots on the ground, and I've worked with their kids, helped them with homework, and I know them. I know the faces of the volunteers. I know the faces of the kids. They're from 5 years old to like high school, and um, I just it's like it's one thing, when like you find a charity like to on a GoFundMe or somewhere random, like I'm
Yeah.
just gonna go find Red Cross or I'm gonna go find UNICEF and I'm just gonna throw money at them. This to me is more intimate than that. Like I feel like I have a deeper relationship with them, and that really helps me with my purpose. And things weren't easy for me or my family growing up, and um, I think seeing kids and families like that helps me resonate with them,
Mm.
and I see myself in some of those kids and those families, and it drives me and motivates me. It gives me a purpose beyond myself. Having what Jay Shetty calls a higher purpose.
We're doing it for the kids, huh?
We're doing it for the kids. Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted a reason to play that. So, what is their website? If someone wants to donate funds to them, where can they do that?
I could put it in the chat.
Yeah, I'll put it up as a banner. You just let me know, and I'll put it up here.
Yeah. It's a go. I started a GoFundMe
Oh, you
called
got it.
For the Kids
Perfect.
2022 Redstone Race Fundraiser. That lists off all the races that I'm going to do. And our goal is to raise $25,000 in this calendar year. Last year, I did a 72-hour race, and we went for 2,500 and raised about 2,600, and that was amazing. So I decided let's aim high, aim for the moon, and let's tenfold that goal, and not just look for donations or look for shares or anything like that, but also just show people the heart of these amazing volunteers and these kids and their families, and kind of the themes behind why they're doing what they're doing. And just um, I feel like if every city in America had a family center like Redstone,
Mm,
the world would, like the US would be such a better place.
yeah. Where are their centers again? You said in Hawthorne?
Yeah, they're located in Hawthorne. They're like LA based.
And they have a physical location there where like people stay there, like families and kids stay there, or is it?
It's like a daycare center, a family center. So they help the parents have like the essential jobs, and they have like spring break camps for the kids, and just place where they can do their homework and find mentorship. And they offer the same to the parents as well, helping them kind of break their own generational trauma, because
Mm,
that's something that's often not explored. That can often be the root of the issue, because
yeah.
your parents can only give you what they had themselves,
Right. Right.
and
No,
that's often, I think, overlooked. So tackling the adoption of the whole family is something that's very unconventional, and that's one of the things I love about Redstone and makes me want to be there for the kids.
yeah. Hey, hold up.
I didn't think you'd catch it.
I was paying attention. um, so that's a great, like, yeah, I really like what they stand for, because they're helping a segment of population, the kids that can't really help themselves, and so they're taking care of them while the family can go earn a living wage, provide for the family. Not only that, now they're helping them with their mental health, with their making sure that their trauma is kind of looked at, because a lot of the times in these families they just don't have the time. They're constantly running around for the family, for raising money, for being able to buy the next toy or whatever it may be, for, provide food on the family, on the table. So yeah, they just don't have the time, but centers like these can kind of give them that opportunity to even look at the trauma and sit down with themselves and kind of even meditate if that's something that they're
Yeah.
into.
And,
Okay, how can people? Yeah, go ahead.
oh, and I was just gonna add to that when I do these races, I make the choice to suffer and I make the choice to grow and be in discomfort. One thing that helps me get through is I remember that these kids and their families don't have a choice.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. They don't have a choice. Yeah. How can people contact you?
You can find me on Instagram at the Aum Gandhi. That's the Aum Gandhi.
I'll put that up here too as a banner.
And you can also contact me by email at om.writingservices@gmail.com.
Oh, let me put that up there as a banner. Om.writingservices@gmail.com. Thank you so much, Om. I really appreciate all of your wisdom, everything that you've been through. It's such a fascinating story, your weight loss story, your mental health story, and now you're out here doing this for the kids.
For the kids.
What is one final message that you have, the parting words that you can share for our audience and for our guests today?
Don't worry about being the person who changes the world. Uh, there's so many of us. We're all in this together. Be that person who changes that person who can change the world. Um, you never know who you never know who's watching when you're doing something. So be a leader, step up, and some showing up is half the battle. Just show up, and I promise good things will happen. There's an entrepreneur, Jesse Itzler, who said, if you put yourself in exceptional situations, exceptional things will happen.
Wow, I
So
love that.
show up.
Show up. Okay, that's a great message. Thank you so much, Om. I really appreciate you, your time, your valuable words, and I also want to thank our audience, everyone that's listening. That's for you. Also, next week, we have another conversation that's going to be on weight loss, and this is through the power of the breath. So, something to look forward to, something very different, very new topic, and he's going to share it for the first time on our channel. So, love and abundance, everybody. Keep drinking your waters. Om, thank you so much. Take care of yourself. Good luck with your next run. I know you got a 240 miler coming up, so good wishes for that. And I know it's going to be a great run. So thank you so much. Love and abundance, everyone.
Love and abundance.